All right. Well, let's talk about things that can help the stock market. So I've got another article that I read. It was on Cheddar, the Cheddar report, and this one's about Apple and how they're trying to boost their sales. So we know in the news it's been all about how bad iPhone sales have been. I mean, they're still an amazing selling phone. It's just they've been constantly selling less than people were expecting to, and not selling as many as they have in the past. So now what Apple's doing, one of their new things that they're trying to do is bring in subscriptions from people subscribing to services. And this one's a games service. So imagine it's like Netflix for video games. So the way this was found out is I guess they've been talking to game developers and they're trying to convince them to come on to a subscription service with Apple, and then they can get exclusive content. You know how like the PlayStation has their exclusive content, and Nintendo has their exclusive content, and Microsoft Xbox has their exclusive
I want
content.
my Bejeweled exclusive content.
I want my Farmville. Wait, that's
Clash
Facebook.
of Clans.
Clash, yeah. So that's what they're trying to do is create a subscription service, and that's a great way to lock somebody in for just constant revenue generating. Instead of buying $1,000 iPhone once a year, they can get $1,000 or more out of somebody just for them constantly subscribing to their service.
Well, and I
So
think it's wise, and even Microsoft did that with Microsoft Office. Did you see that
yes.
you can't purchase Word anymore?
Oh, I
You
thought you still could get a standalone.
Well, you might be able to, but on the App Store on your Apple computers, it's like, I don't know, $30 to $50 a year or something
Yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy. That's a
That's
lot of money.
crazy. That's a lot
Yeah.
of money for something you can do on Google
Yeah.
Drive for free.
Well, that's brought in a lot of money to Microsoft when they went to a subscription service. And, it's understandable that they do that. And for some people, they feel it's worth it. In fact, I'd love to hear from our listeners. Why don't you email us or comment below and tell us why you like Microsoft 360, or maybe tell us the opposite, why you don't. One of the advantages to a subscription service like that is you will always get the latest updates. So you'll always be working in the latest and the greatest. And I think it comes with cloud storage, and you can access your documents from anywhere in the world, any device. Sure, that's great, but is it worth the amount of money they're asking for? I personally don't feel it is, but for others, obviously it's working for them.
I don't know. I mean, remember when we used to use Word Perfect back in the day to write our
Yes.
essays with that blue screen?
Oh
It's the
yeah.
same thing. I mean, you control B, you got the bold font. I don't know. Are things really changing with Microsoft Office and Microsoft Word? Ooh, you've got the new features. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
the one
Look
10
at your
years
new
ago is fine.
formats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I am a heavy Excel user. And as a heavy Excel user, there are things I can't do on Google Docs that
Okay, that's
or
fair.
Google Sheets, right? I can't do pivot tables yet. Macros, right? Like those heavy duty things just aren't built in yet. So, I can see me using Excel for a long time now, unless we can get a cheaper competitor that can still handle things like pivot tables and macros.
Well, I heard they're working on pivot tables. They might even be there, but I'm not sure. Maybe some users could tell us. Really quick, though, I wanted to comment on this subscription for games. I think it's really great. I think they're going to overprice it. One thing I liked about Netflix was how they started out at 7.99. It's a shame
Yes.
that they're up in the teens now.
Hmm.
But I don't think they're going to go low and go high. I think they're going to start high. The
Ah,
other thing that I wanted to bring up that just drives me crazy about Apple is
yep.
that they force people to upgrade not because their hardware is terrible, but because they upgrade to iOS 13.
Yes.
And I actually just read an article today that said it's possible that iOS 13 will not include the iPhone 6S or my iPhone SE, and it's
Oh,
fine.
and they're
There's
selling SEs. We
I
reported that last
know.
week. You can
They
buy a
just,
brand new SE.
and in a few months, maybe you won't be able to upgrade it. And they're going to have all these new features, and the new features, I guarantee you, are not going to be so CPU intense that you can't upgrade it. They simply want your money. And I think they realized that in their last quarterly call. I was reading some of the um, some of the things that they had said, and they basically were saying that they lost a lot of money because people's batteries and the phones were fine, and people were not purchasing new phones. So their way around that is every 2 or 3 years, we're going to make the old phones obsolete, even though they're fine, so that they can get all the new features.
It's like a subscription,
It's like a
only every two
subscription.
years.
I think they're catching on. Everyone's figuring out that the way for money in tech is subscriptions, and it is also to kick people off out of old stuff and make them buy new stuff.
Well, and in games, it's all about the microtransactions. But
Yeah.
EA sure learned the hard way when they did their Star Wars game where fans revolted,
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
revolted. Yeah.
No, that's fascinating, Matt. Well, it'll be interesting to see how the subscription goes. I personally am sick of subscriptions. I do not pay for Spotify. I do not pay for Hulu. The
Ah,
only one that I pay for is for Netflix because I've been
yes,
doing it for so long. But I'm not paying for Apple Music. I'm not
yes,
interested in paying for Xbox games or the PlayStation game subscription. I
yeah.
mean, if you add all of these up, it's like $200-300 a month on stuff that only you sometimes use. Take
So,
me back when you can
yeah,
just buy a game.
I
I
have a subscription. So I'm going to tell you right now, I completely agree with you. I think subscriptions is the best way to spend a lot of money in little tiny transactions once a month. And then when you add it up, your mind is blown with how expensive it is.
yes.
But we do subscribe to the PlayStation. What is it? The
It's isn't that like $20 a month?
No, you can get discounts. So there was a Black Friday sale and we got it for 50% off, and I think it was like $50 for a whole year.
Okay.
Yeah, so 50 Canadian for a whole year.
All right.
So
So like
yeah,
20
it's pretty
bucks.
good. And every month you get free games. So PlayStation Plus, that's what it's called.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and my kids love it. And I think because we have it, we don't buy a lot of games. In fact, we just buy the occasional game. And like maybe once a year or twice a year, we'll buy a game, and the rest is part of the subscription. So if you consider it the cost of buying one game a year, like $50 is the cost of one really good, expensive new game a year, and you get the subscription, and every month you get 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 games that you can download, then that my kids love it.
So one other thing that I worry about with these subscription services is what about the little guy, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
are the games being made by, people in their garage, or people aren't going to see
yes,
them because they're not
the
going to be
indie
on the
games.
subscription. Yeah, the indie games aren't going to be on the subscription service.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't know. A lot to think about.
yeah.
And
Let's have comments.
yeah, tell us if you like subscribing to things or if you just like paying for it one time, or maybe you pirate it. I don't know. Maybe you go on the Pirate Bay. I don't know.
Is that still a thing? The Pirate
It's,
Bay? I thought it was shut
it's
down like 5 times.
well, they keep moving to different places, and I don't know if you're ever going to shut that down.